Thank you very much. In the spirit of reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge the original custodians of the land, their elders past and present. I'd like to acknowledge my candidates. It's good to have democracy in action, and some of the work that you've done has been outstanding as well. So we go back and know each other through what's been happening at Banksy Garden. We're just meeting for the first time tonight, so I don't know your full background, but we need more meetings like this. We need more engagement. Okay, so my family arrived in Broadmeadows in 1959 when it was a raw fringe at the end of the line. It was the year that the Ford Motor Company, actually the opening was announced, and Henry Bolte came out, and there was an orchestra, and there were dancing girls, and that was the last Liberal thing. Okay, so I had a career in journalism. I've won 2 Wilkley Awards, I was an investigative reporter for Four Corners, and did was a political reporter, correspondent internationally as well as nationally. And one of the issues that, as I was becoming a journalist, one of my first political interviews was with the head of the Premier's Department on his retirement. So this is in the early 1980s, Major General Ken Green. So this is the #1 commander in the state of Victoria. And I asked him on his retirement, what's been your greatest successes? And he told me. And I said, what's been your biggest failure in the previous generation of governments? So this is before the 80s. And he said, Broadmeadows. So I was so gobsmacked I didn't tell him, well, thanks very much. That's where I live, that's where I've grown up, and that's where my family is. But I got him to explain why. And basically, it's about the post-war settlement and jobs and growth. So Henry Bolte, as Premier, he got the Premier's Department to attract major corporations. He wanted to turn Victoria into a manufacturing engine of the Australian economy. So they attracted Ford, Yakka, Ericsson, Denzel Don. My mum ended up working on all those assembly lines except for Ford. And what they were trying to do then was, to build this industrial heartland. And then they gave the Housing Commission the brief to build row upon row of pastel-coloured concrete homes for the workers. So who were the workers? They took the inner city poor out of the slums, and the word they used was they decanted them, except from out here. And then it was each new wave of migrants as they got off the boat. As I said, my family, one of the pioneers out here in 1959. So we live in a great country. We live in the world's most livable city. But we know that areas get left behind. And that's what's happened in large regard to the areas out here. The biggest failure in that time, in that period of government, was the lack of coordination, even between one tier of government, to actually get the social resources that were required for any community. So in 1999, Jeff Kennett was Premier. City of Hume asked me to be the founding chair of a Safe City Task Force. And I thought, here we go again. This is a classic. Conservative government saying we want to have a law and order response to an area of need or disadvantage. So I said I'll do the job on 2 conditions. If I'm independent, and I'm going to run an agenda. And actually didn't ask me what the agenda was. So the agenda was to build a global learning village. We didn't have a public library. And I said we have to be global in our outlook and our aspiration. Learning has to be lifelong. And a village, because we needed a sense of place. Because you have a look at the way that Broadmeadows was designed, and even around here, just a little strip shopping centres, right? So there was no heart, no hub. And also wanted it so that we could connect up internationally. So technology was the key thing. So that led, just over a decade ago, to the building of the Hume Global Learning Centre, the first library in Broadmeadows. But what was also about this was that what I was trying to get the investment in was into attitude, education and opportunity. Because they're the attributes that largely determine where we all end up in life. Not just bigger police stations, grander courthouses and more prisons. So you can work out which side of politics is investing in those propositions. So the Hume Global Learning Centre in Broadmeadows led to the VisiCares Learning Centre in Meadow Heights. And that was a maternal and childcare centre where you can get jobs, training, where you can get, the community has picked it up and run with it, so you can get belly dancing classes, karate classes, whatever. But we needed the infrastructure. We needed the hubs. Then the next one, so that was under the Brumby government. It was only Labor in power that's ever delivered. I mean, it's not in dispute, it's a fact. The next proposition was to get the Craigieburn Global Learning Village, and that money came from the Rudd-Gillard government. Now that part of the Global Learning Village, has just won the International Library of the Year. World's best. In the meantime, I paid my own way and went to Silicon Valley because computers were a key enabler. This was a way that we could actually connect the disconnected, people who didn't feel part of the community, get them in. So I went to Stanford University, then went to Cisco Systems in California to get them interested. I paid my own way to the World ICT Congress conference in Malaysia to get Intel to become a partner, and then Microsoft came running. So we built an ideas lab in Broadmeadows with 3 of the world's leading ICT companies, and this was to use each new evolution of technology for teaching and learning. And we got that up and going. There were 2 in the world, London and Broading. So I'll give you the t-shirts later, New York, London and Paris, Broading. Okay, so we've got the t-shirts for you as well. Now I'm joking, but I'm only half joking, because what happened is, what then occurred was we had all that up and going. We've got the multiversity was the next proposition to complete lifelong learning. So if you go to the Hume Global Learning Centre, you can get preschool reading, because that's really important, because that's where a lot of kids, if they don't get to read, they get stuck in the front of the class and, you know, it damages their sense of self-esteem. Bilingual story time. Why do we need that? Because this is virtually a United Nations in one neighbourhood. We've got people from more than 140 different nationalities now calling Australia home and looking for a better future beyond the burden of history. That's what this country offers, one of our greatest gifts. Then we have mentoring off computers for free. If you're a smart kid in the poor area, you know, this gives you a chance not to be left behind. Then you have the multiversity. The multiversity gives you the proposition to actually get TAFE certificates for the blue-collar jobs and for those who think better with their hands, to university degrees. So I've got to help get La Trobe University in to do pathways courses, so the kids who come from non-English speaking backgrounds or who don't actually have anybody in their family who have actually been to university, so we can help them through that, the social issues that are there. Then you get the jobs from the degrees from Victoria University and Deakin University. Yesterday I launched the local jobs for local people strategy with Melbourne Airport. Why is that important? Because that's got 12,000 jobs at Melbourne Airport. They've got $1 billion in investment, rising to $10 billion over the next 20 years. And I'm trying to make sure that we get the pathways for the jobs, from the blue-collar jobs to the white-collar jobs, organised for local people first. Then we've got the relocation to Melbourne wholesale markets out to Epping, so that will provide another 10,000 jobs all up. But that's connected up with food technology, logistics and everything. Got La Trobe University in on that one. And then we're looking at the other major employers. I've got a strategy for economic development that I'm getting the wine, but I'll come to a little bit later if you like. But it's all about this. So what I'm saying is, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been in business, I've done a lot of things. I was never a member of a political party. I was asked by Labor to stand when John Brumby resigned as the former Premier of the state of Victoria. I did it because I was really concerned that everything would be done would be lost. And what's happened is we've had the reverse Robin Hood strategy under the Napthine and Bailey government, and then we've had the worst impact of any community from the Abbott budget was families in this area. So what I'd like to do, if I get the privilege to represent you in the pub, is connect up Fawkner into the global learning village, get these mechanisms. We've got, met the principal here, there's good schools here, right? We can do this, and what I'm saying is we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. I'd like to invite you all to be a part of how we actually make this happen, okay? Thank you.